Right, Helen, we are live, so it's good. It's a case of building an audience, right?
Yeah.
So, if anyone is on, if you're joining us, please say hello. Helen,
Yes.
give me some tips on how this works. How we're gonna do our absolute best by our audience. You're the master at this.
Well, I wouldn't say a master, but I think what we'll do is you've got some really good top tips prepared, haven't you?
Absolutely.
I have seen and they are amazing.
Helen, I've got notes. I've
He's
got
got
notes, Helen.
He's even typed them, they're not even handwritten. Look at this.
I can't wait.
So yeah, I think Matt's going to take us through some top tips. I'm going to chip in with my value that I can add on those top tips, and then hopefully a lot of people in the chat are going to interact with us, and we're going to read out their comments. We're going to answer any questions they've got and stuff like that, and we're just going to have like a really nice conversation around why we don't take action, what we can do to start taking action.
Do you know what? I'll start by saying that this is what it seems to work like is whether it's Matt will probably allude to this, even Stephen Bartlett, anyone that's in kind of this understanding of kind of self-development. We go through different stages ourselves, and every now and again kind of things become prevalent to us.
Yes.
And so we explore it, and then that actually becomes a theme of the things that we talk about.
Yeah.
So I've seen Matt do this. You know, at one point it was on relationships, and it was on this. And Stephen Bartlett seems to go through certain things, and other people within this kind of space. Now, this is really prevalent to me right now. So I was really glad this came up because, you know, I've been on holiday for 2 weeks, and you know what happens?
Oh, yeah.
All of your drive. You know, you've gone through that period of not particularly taking any action at all, and then you're suddenly faced with, look, it's time to begin now. It's time to reset, refocus, and those things kind of drain away, and you've got to literally make yourself accountable again, start to take action again. And these are all the things that I'm actually reminding myself of and exploring right now. Okay, self-development is just that. Self-development is realizing that it's constant improvement.
Yeah.
So nobody ever comes on a platform like this and says, look, I've got all the answers. Really, all that we're saying is we know things, and we kind of sometimes maybe one step ahead, or we've gone through some of these things, but we're not saying we know all the answers. And this is what I'm exploring at the minute, or reminding myself of, which I think is really important to let people know. And what I'm going to talk about is I've actually split it down into 10 reasons, 10 main reasons why generally, you know, people don't take action on things that they want to take action on. You know, that conversation we have with myself, I really want to do this, but something just stops you from taking action. Yeah. And the reason why action is so important, I think it's really, really important to lay the groundwork, is that it's actions that get results. In my game, in the acting game, you know, people talk about, you know, it being a tough industry, but really it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You try to put yourself in the way of as many opportunities as possible that then breed success.
Yes.
And it's only through action do we put ourselves in the way of as many opportunities as we can that can then turn into success. You know, what are your thoughts on that, Helen?
Yeah, completely agree. And like you said, I think it's really important to point out we are a work in progress ourselves. I don't think there's anybody alive that could say, nailed it, done all this, do all this perfectly all the time. Absolutely not. It's a constant, like you said, you're trying to spin plate, and then you'll realize this area, I'm not doing that well at, and I need to go back and revisit it. And I need to. So this is all lived experience for us. This is stuff that we live and breathe, but still a work in progress anyway. And this is still stuff that we have to remind ourselves of. In an accountability group, we remind each other of, if we can see each other not getting this stuff right. And so it's very much like a we thing. It's not a lecturing, this is what you should do thing. It's us working on this stuff ourselves as well. So, but yeah, I completely agree. And in terms of taking action, you know, we all know these people that never take any action, and they talk and talk and talk, but they never do. And whether that's in a work environment where there's somebody at work, I hate this job, I'm going to leave, 5 years later, they're still sat there, still moaning, still, or people with weight loss journeys, they just talk and talk and talk, but they never do. And talking doesn't get you anywhere. So,
Nope.
But then, as we're going to explore, there's a lot of reasons behind that. And there's a lot of things that people have to overcome to go from thinking about something, talking about doing something, to actually doing it. So I'm sure that you can offer some advice there.
Absolutely. So let's go right into it. Okay. So number one, and it's one of the first things that I started to really understand on my own self-development journey, and that's a procrastination model. So we all start to realize what procrastination is. From a very simple level, it's, look, I've got to tidy my kitchen. And effectively, the procrastination then starts to come in, because the first thing we do is we start to overthink it. All right. Usually it's a scale of about 10 times, 10 thoughts that come into our head on one very, very simple task. Well, wait a minute. Is the Hoover did I just say that? That's like first world's problems. Did I just say, is the Hoover charged? I can't believe I've just said that, right? But that is one of the things that might come into your head. Yeah. One of the thoughts, it's like, time. Have I got enough time? What time? Have I got to do this? Have I got to do that? What else have I got to do? So really, the first step on procrastination that stops us taking action is overthinking. This is one of mine. It really, really is. I have about 10 thoughts to every single task. This is something I have to counteract, okay? Now, let us know in the comments if this is you, all right? Also, just really quickly, let me jump in and say, look, you can help us. So if you can, please, if you could share this conversation we're having on whatever platform you're on, okay? On Instagram, on Facebook, it would be incredibly helpful. We want to help as many people as possible with this value, okay? And if you manage to do that, if you could put done in the comments, we'll give you a shout out, all right? That'll be brilliant. So thank you very much. So the first thing we do in the procrastination model is we overthink. Now, the second part to that is after we've started overthinking, what we do is we start to get emotional, okay? So that overthinking becomes emotion. Oh, no. What type of emotions do you think we might have then, Helen?
For me, it can be like sometimes overwhelm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Overwhelm, to be honest, that's the first one that comes to mind. Or fear is the other emotion that comes in quite a lot when I've got something to do and I'm like, oh.
That's right. So we start to attach emotion to those thoughts, okay? And then the longer that goes on, so if you think of it like a kind of linear scale, the longer it goes on, the less chance we actually have of completing that task. Or really, we do complete that task, but we've really put ourselves through the mill, all right? We don't need to, because what is the actual solution to the procrastination model? The procrastination model really lets us know that the best way in order to beat procrastination is to go from thought to action as quickly as possible, okay? When I say thought, the thought of the task, as opposed to the extra thoughts that we then put on top. Mel Robbins has a really, really well thought out, amazing strategy for this. And it's so simple. And what she says is you count from 4 to 0. So you have that thought, I need to do this. And then before anything else happens, before you start overthinking it, getting emotional, what you do is you count down from 4, 3, 2, 1, and do. Not 3, 2, 1, not 2, 1, not 5, 4. Apparently, that psychologically is the best number to count down from. And you go from 4 to 0 and take action instantly. Now, I found myself doing that all the time, okay? My missus had a lot of tasks for me to do last night. Now I'm not working on the evening because it's summer at MZA. she's got lots of tasks for me at the minute. So I'm literally having to do this every evening. So it's like 4, 3, 2, 1, do. Okay, you've got to do this in the garden. You've got to do this. Apparently I'm leaving shoes everywhere at the minute, Helen.
That's Zena.
I know.
My husband does that too, actually, and it drives me insane. We've got a porch, and there's like a box in the porch that's like a bench that you put your shoes in, and he leaves them at the side of it. And I'm like, how hard is it to just pick them up and put them in? Go in and there's 6 pairs of shoes, and I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I empathise with Mrs. Zena on this one.
Oh, right, okay. The sisterhood. Yeah, no, I could see it. I could see a frustration. Yeah, I seem to put on about 3-4 pairs of shoes per day. I don't know why. It's a bit odd, and then I leave them everywhere. Look, hands up. All right. So that's where the procrastination model's coming in. So that's just number 1. Okay, so we've got a lot to go through. Has there been any comments so far, Helen?
Yes, there has. So we have got, we've got quite a few people watching and saying hello to us. Miss Adventures Travel, which is Tracy Fisher. Carol is saying hi. Mark Acting, afternoon to you both. Fitness by Lindsay, hello. Penelope Lamberton, hello. We're popular, us, Matt.
Oh.
And then Carol has said, I'm so guilty of overthinking everything and then getting overwhelmed and then getting into full-blown panic mode. I relate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. To be fair, that's number 2. Okay, so I wanted to really deal with this. Fear is a very, very strange thing, and it's the one, and I think fear is every single one of those things that comes afterwards or has an element to it. Okay, overwhelm, all of these things. But I wanted to explore something with you, and that is, yes, the genuine fear of the task being huge. Can I do it? But one of the strange things that I've always found, and this is more of a subconscious thing, is there's another, and some people don't really believe this, and I want to know what you think as an audience, but sometimes I think there's a slight fear of success as well. One thing that I think, it might be a bit paleo, but I think one thing that we fear is change.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think of some of these targeted destinations that we have for ourselves, sometimes I think subconsciously, subliminally, if that's not the same thing, could we be frightened of the change that comes with success? What do you think about that?
I think 100%. I actually asked this question to one of the speakers at Matt's last event.
Right.
Matt Hall's last event, not to confuse the two Matts, because this is something that I have identified in myself as being a huge thing that holds me back. Mm. Because I think sometimes you might have a massive goal or a big dream, and then you're like, I really want it. And then when you actually start working towards it, I start to pull myself back because I'm like, what if I actually achieve this? Can I actually handle this? Would I be able to manage this? Would it be all too stressful? And I think it's a huge point, and I think it's something that affects a lot of people, but they don't really have much self-awareness around. So yeah. I think it's an absolutely great point to bring up.
Yeah, and do you know what the answer is? Oh, okay. Yeah. The answer is, and I've spoke about this a lot, is what we do is when we do have a target, and when we understand what we've got to do to get that target, that's what part of this is. It's like, look, we've targeted ourselves to do this, and it's huge and it's brilliant and it's exciting even sometimes, but we haven't actually taken on the identity. Mm-hmm. We haven't actually sometimes said, this is the person we need to become, because the person we need to become isn't actually scared of achieving that goal.
This makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. So I'll just take you really back to my kind of early gym days. And it's like, look, I wasn't a gym person 3 years ago. Around the time when I started working with Matt at Success School. And he took me to the gym a lot and kind of ingratiated me into the gym. And I started going to the gym. I started doing things that really made me sick, like gym selfies, just because I wanted to take on the identity of a gym person, because that's what I thought a gym person did. I just started doing things that gym. Now, what happens is when you just do things, it's Nike, you're going to hear that a lot today, just do it. When you just do things, you get what's called a feedback loop of going, well, maybe I am a person. Okay? Maybe I am the person that achieves that goal. Maybe I am. And suddenly you start to believe your own hype. It's like, look, and then when you do start to literally do those things that are going towards that goal, you're not scared anymore. You don't have fear of change. You don't have fear of actually achieving the target. And I think that's really, really important for everyone to know. If you don't want to have overwhelm, if you don't want to have issues around subconsciously holding yourself back on taking action, maybe focus on the person that you need to become based on the target that you've got for yourself and the actions that you're taking towards it. All right?
Powerful,
but so true. I've got actors that I have to say, look, do you actually say to people that you're an actor? They don't actually take on the identity of being an actor. They're in training. They're at professional acting school like mine. They have an agent. They're learning, but they do not literally put themselves front and center. They don't have it in the bio on Facebook, actor. And in my head, they haven't taken on the identity, and anything that comes after that could be overwhelmed. They could end up on a film set tomorrow. They could end up in an audition. But do they have the mindset whereby they have the identity that's going to take them to that destination that they require? And I say no. Sometimes deal with the person that you need to become. And it's certainly act as if. You don't just get that identity straight away. You've literally got to act as if. You've got to be kind of ahead of yourself and get a feedback loop until you really actually do feel like a person. Whew. Wow.
Huge. That has got to have helped people, because that I've really taken that on board myself. And I think you've raised a lot of points there to really consider. And it obviously feeds into the whole imposter syndrome thing. But actually, if you're behaving like an imposter,
don't worry, Helen. I think we've just frozen slightly. Okay. I'm going to keep going until you return. I'm sure you will shortly. I'm going to go on to number 3, okay, which is targets and whys. All right. So hopefully it's just you that's frozen, Helen, and not me as well. Okay. I'm just going to take you out and then bring you back in, Helen. All right. Here we go. So number 3 is, I'm just looking. Right, number 3 is targets. Okay, targets. Now, we do need targets. We can't be a rudderless boat. We need to know where we are going. Okay, we need to make sure that we are going towards a destination. So make targets. Whether it's 3 months targets, okay, whether it's 6 months targets, okay. Don't worry, Carol, I'm still going. All right, don't panic. Helen will be back shortly. So you've got to make sure that you have a target. However, this is the one thing I found. I always did have targets, but what I didn't have is any real emotional connection to those targets. Okay. At times, I would just have a target and just keep taking action. And then because I didn't have any emotional ties to those targets, sometimes I would give up at certain points. Okay. Helen, are you back? Helen.
Hey, do you know what? I'm trying to figure out what is going on with it. Oh, I don't know what happened.
These things happen. We just lost connection. You came back. Everything's okay. All right, don't panic. Although we had concern. We have the lovely Carol Whiteley going, You are still okay, Matt. Which I think I was okay. You weren't. It's okay.
No, the internet kicked me out for some reason. I don't know what's going on. But we're back.
Bradley says, true, a target. I was just saying that targets are important. It is important to have targets. But I always had targets, but I didn't always achieve them until I did this. 7 levels Y was one of the most groundbreaking exercises I ever did on my targets. So what I did is when I first did this, I took 3 targets. One of them was to do with, I'll take one of them. When I first got into the personal development side of things, I was 3 stone overweight. I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I felt awful. I did feel really unhealthy. And Matt Hall, Success School, he got me to do a 7 levels Y exercise. And what that does is effectively you just take your target and ask yourself why, and you write down the answer, but why, because of that answer, but why, until you're 7 level deep. Now, what actually happens is when you get 7 levels deep on a target and keep asking yourself why, you really get to the emotional undercurrent as to why you want to achieve it. Now, that particular one, I was nearly brought to tears, was that I've got at the time I had a 6-year-old son, and when I get towards kind of 50, 60, when health issues kick in, if you're not in a good place, I don't want to not be here. I literally got to the stage where I said, look, I don't want to be dead, because I had a grandfather who died when my dad was 16 of heart issues. I do not want to not be here. Now, when I got to that, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was upsetting. The idea of not being here from my son because I didn't take action on my health now really affected me. And so I lost 3 stone in no time. You know, I've been maintaining it. I probably want to lose a bit more, and you probably need to get back to my why. It's really easy when somebody offers you a piece of cake, okay? Right? It's really easy to kind of go, oh, yeah, maybe, yeah. But then when you've just got in your mind that you want to be here for when your son grows up, you want to not be dead, you're not going to take that cake. Does that make sense? So if anyone really wants to take action, make sure that you have a deeper emotional resonance with your targets, okay? With your targets, because my Lord, that is what took me through. And I did it with finances, and I grew my business. I think it was 3 to 4x. Okay, I literally ridiculously, it blew up. All of this, but from doing 7 levels Y and making sure that I had such a huge emotional resonance backing these targets up, which got me to just take action and action and action and action. Believe me, that was the one thing. So it's a bit strange because on one hand, we said right at the start, don't attach emotion. And now I'm saying do attach emotion.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is actually, look, you've got on your overall target, the big destination, make sure that you've gone 7 levels deep and you have an emotional tie to achieving that target.
Yeah.
But those actions that you need to take, the tasks, all of this, just do it. Just do it. Okay? Whew. Did I nearly get emotional then?
Do you know what though? It's hugely powerful, and it just shows how effective that exercise actually is. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think if you can get a strong enough why, you can do anything. But it's getting that strong enough why, because there's a lot of friction that's going to come up. And you've just used an example there where, like, you know, somebody's going to offer you a cake, and you would literally go, oh, why not? Well, you've got your why not now, haven't you? You've literally got your why not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's huge in the sense that it's something to keep going back to. Whereas I think sometimes people go like, I need to lose weight, and don't go any deeper than that. They don't think of, the underlying reasons as to why they need to lose weight or whatever the goal is. Once you actually know why, it's so much easier to just stay on track and to actually get the result. It's something that we all do, isn't it, in Success School? And it's an exercise that whenever Matt does, like you've just said, emotion does come up. Because when people actually, on a surface level, it could be, well, I just want to look better. But then when you start digging and digging and digging and digging, you do then hit these really kind of like sort of points that you probably know in your subconscious, but you never acknowledge. And when you start to acknowledge those points, that's when it really does start to hit different. And when it hits different, you start to behave different.
I know I'm going to take it from one extreme to the other now. All right. So we really are taking people on an emotional journey. I'm saying, look, talk about it might kill you. So, no, what I'll do is I'll lay out the problem. And this is the one problem I have. I'm ridiculous with this. And that is, look, I need to do less on my own admin. And that's something I'm going to do in September, to be fair. Something like your service, like virtual PA. I've got one. I'm going to more tasks, all of that stuff. This is what, like I say, you're brilliant at. Matt's finding that you're absolutely outstanding at what you do. You really are. And so this is the problem. And tell me, anyone out there, tell me if you do the same. So you've got a list of tasks, right? I've got to do this, 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 and this. And I look at my to-do list, all right? And I go, oh, right? I go, oh, I really do. I'm terrible. And I once kind of spoke to Matt Hall, actually, about this. I was like, oh, just got loads to do. He goes, well, how many things have you got to do on there? I was about 18. And I go, well, just read me a few. And he goes, they're 5-minute tasks, Matt. I'm like, all right. He goes, look, at this stage, again, just like procrastination model, just take literally the emotion out of it. This time, take the emotion out of it. Just take it, take a deep breath, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is, again, it's anti-procrastination model, really, and just do it. Nike, just do it. That's all it's referring to, really. Anti-procrastination. It's basically saying, I think, that the success of the Nike brand and the people who use the Nike brand, the athletes, the runners, the reason for their success is really anti-procrastination. Mm-hmm. I think that's what they're saying in one tagline, because those successful athletes, those successful people just do it. Whereas the rest of us that get emotional about having to do something and invariably don't do it, they're basically saying that the Nike athletes and the people associated with their brand just do it. I've just seen a comment saying from Ryan, just saying, this is a Nike commercial.
He's pitching at you. He's like, he wants to be on the next ad.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. Okay, I expect the trainers through the door tomorrow. But yeah, that's all they're saying there. It's one of the best taglines from one of the biggest companies in the world, and I think it really does make a statement about anti-procrastination and what they want effectively to be associated with. Now, we're on number 6. Yeah, we are. We're on number 6. We're doing well. We're doing really well. I think we're halfway through. I think what we'll do is we'll take some time to breathe.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that shared this live to your audience as well?
Let's read these comments. So some of these are going back a few points, so bear with me. So Penelope said she does have a fear of success. She loves it if change is forced, but she can't force it on herself. Do you know, I think a lot of people are like that. It's like when you've got no choice and you have to do something, it's a lot easier than when you have to pick to take that risk yourself. And that's what a lot of it is, isn't it? It's risk taking, and it's sort of, it's going into uncertainty. And I think a lot of us aren't very good at that. We're not very comfortable with that, but it is something that you can definitely work on. I've definitely got better at it, and I'm sure you have too, Matt, over the years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Penelope said, Helen, you're reading my mind. So that must have been on one of the points I said. Ryan Warmold, is it?
That's the one.
Yeah, I do get scared of the managing the success. Then you go back into your comfort zone. Yeah, it is. It's bizarre how we want it, but then we can also talk ourselves out of it so quickly. But I think that is the whole thing, like you were saying about, it's the imposter syndrome, and it's going into that level of identifying as that fully and then becoming it.
Yeah, absolutely. Identity first. Make that the key to it all.
Yeah. Penelope's just said that exercise nearly broke me, and a laughing face. She's on about the 7 levels deep or 7 levels wide. It's a biggie. Helen Short, hello. She said she was just waiting for a client, so she can't stay long. But hello, thank you for coming and watching us. Carol has said she had the wrong emotional ties to fat loss. She associated being slimmer with horrific things, but now she's beating that tie. It isn't easy, but she's changing the negative ties to it. And I think that's a massively valid point as well. I think sometimes, even though something could be in our best interests, we could have negative emotions linked to that result, even though the result would be a positive result at the end of it. And so it's about learning to reframe things, which again is something that Matt's really worked on.
Absolutely. And it's that thing as well of about, are you trying to run away from pain?
Yeah.
Or go towards, you know, and I think that's really, really valid, genuinely.
Yeah. Penelope said, if you didn't get emotional, Matt, I did, or when you was talking about your son. And Arlette has said she's got to go. She's sorry. And then Lynn's just joined, and she said, joined in the sun, al fresco. Feel much better today. Amazing what sleep does. You're not wrong. Sleep can fix everything, can't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it can. Right. Shall we go on to the next point?
Yeah.
Get started and get perfect later. Okay. So, this is a huge one. It really, really is. I don't know. There's so many people like this. I think I've never really been like this, but I know lots of people who are. Right? Let's just take the example of 2 people starting a business. They've both got the same idea. Now, one person, take it that side, okay, literally thinks about that business idea, wants to literally understand everything about it, wants to make sure that everything is going to be perfect, and they stay right there. And then you've got somebody else, okay, who just takes action. They get that website set up. They do it. They're literally learning on the job. Mm-hmm. Now, what I've found, and this is the trick to it all, is when you just get started, it's better to actually learn and to understand everything when you're inside of it. Mm-hmm. Right? This person's not even inside of it, but they're trying to perfect something that actually, until they're inside of it, they're not going to know that much about. No. But the person who takes that first step and the second step is inside of it and is learning a lot more as they're kind of inside of it, as they're getting a feedback loop from being inside of that job. Now, by the time this person gets started, this person is streaks ahead. Okay? And I think that for me, I've seen that time and time and time again. And this is where the getting started and getting perfect later is so much better than trying to perfect something before getting started. And for me as well, that's just procrastination.
Yeah.
It's overthinking something. and getting emotional about something.
Yeah.
And the longer that draws out, actually, the less chance it has of actually happening.
I was one of those people, 100%.
Mm.
And it's taken me years to get out of that. And I remember the moment that light bulb came on, and it has taken years, but I do have an anxiety disorder. I do not tolerate uncertainty well. And I think that is a massive thing in this situation. If you're going to just think jump, you've got to be able to tolerate uncertainty, because it's going to be an uncertain ride.
Yeah.
And it took me years of working on myself, loads of personal development work. And I remember saying it to Matt, and he just went, yes, thank you. And I said, I'm giving up. I'm trying to find certainty in an uncertain world, and I can't. So I'm just gonna have to roll with it from now on. And he was like, amen.
Hallelujah. Absolutely.
Finally.
And that is the most important thing. This is it. You know, there's three things in life. And this is where people are unhappy, because life falls below their expectation.
Yeah.
Right? If life is above your expectation, you're kind of happy.
Mhm.
Now, really, what you've got to question is then, well, what is life? And what expectation must I have about life? There's three things. The first one is that there will always be trouble and strife, emotional pain, emotional struggle, physical pain.
Yeah.
Now, that is the heart. I mean, even saying it, that's horrific to come to terms with.
Yeah.
Right? But could you imagine if you did come to terms with that?
Mm.
Now, I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I'm trying my best.
Yeah.
If I could just think, look, there'll be emotional, physical, and by the way, it's absolutely true. You know, what can we say? It's true. There will always be physical and emotional pain in this world. But what do? We try and hide from ourselves that it's ever going to be there until it happens. Okay? So that's number one. Number two is what you alluded to. Uncertainty. There's always going to be uncertainty and confusion in our lives. That's number two. And what Matt was alluding to there is, look, you've got to come to terms with that.
Mm-hmm.
And the second you do, life will fall above your expectation. You can then get rid of your anxiety, be happy, and all of that. And number three is that we're always going to have a need for hard work.
Yeah.
Now, if I was going to literally give out advice to anyone watching this who wants to give themselves space to just be a bit more happier, it would be to spend some time coming to terms with those three things.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that, number one, there's always going to be physical and emotional pain. One, be ready for it and know what to do and how you are going to deal with that and cope with that. And by the way, if it's not unexpected, you're going to deal with it a lot better rather than hiding from it. Number two, confusion. You know, not really, you know, life's going to really be very confusing for you at times. It's going to be uncertain. Again, if we can come to terms with that, like you did, like Matt told you to, you know, like Matt was like, hallelujah, this is a big moment. It was, because in that moment, you came to terms with number two. And then number three, if this is the one, by the way, that I feel that I feel like it sounds like an old man, one of those. But this is what I think this next generation are really, really struggling with, and some of my generation, our generation, sorry, Helen, okay, really struggling with is the need for hard work, right? You know, it's all shortcuts, isn't it? It's all, if I just, you know, actors try and do it. Actors do this a lot. if I just get an agent and sit by the phone, James Bond are going to come ringing. I don't need to work hard. But then when you actually look at people like Tom Cruise, I put some content out yesterday about him saying, look, he was talking about his work ethic and all of the actual really, Margot Robbie talking about how she would literally ring every single week the, what's it called? Neighbours production company, week after week. And finally they put her through to the casting department. You know, that work ethic. You cannot succeed without a huge work ethic. And if we come to terms with the fact that we're going to need to work hard all of our lives, so if literally you take away anything from this, come to terms with those 3 things and spend some time sitting and coming to terms with them, because that's what happened in that moment for me.
Yeah.
You came to terms with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think it's liberating when you do. That's the way I felt once I actually wrapped my head around all this. And there's something that we talk about a lot in personal development, isn't there, which is called like the blueprint for life. And I think when we're young, we grow up with this blueprint, the way we think life's supposed to be and the way we think everything's supposed to unfold. And like you've just said then, Matt, you know, we have grown up as a generation that want a quick win, that think that things are just going to land in our lap. And I think for me, a big part of that process was rewriting that blueprint to realise that nobody's going to hand you nothing. So you better get off your backside and you better work for it and you better make it happen for yourself.
Nobody's coming.
Exactly. And but that was like a massive, and I just regret not realising that sooner. I think that's probably the biggest regret, is not getting to know that sooner.
Love that.
Now I have. Everything's changed. So it's been well worthwhile going on that journey to discover that, and also learning to tolerate uncertainty. And one of the big ways that I've learned to do that, and I think this is a useful tip, so I'm going to share it, is I always seen uncertainty as a negative, and now I've started to realise that there's actually a lot of positive to uncertainty and that we need it. Because if we knew the way everything was going to pan out every day, life would be so boring.
It would.
Boring.
Agreed.
So we actually need uncertainty. You know, all of the positive stuff that could happen to us is uncertain too. We could win the lottery. We don't know. That's uncertain. That's not a bad thing. That's a great thing. You could land an amazing role. You could get contacted by James Bond. It's uncertain. That's an amazing thing. And I think learning to see it as it has its positives and its negatives. Yes, negative things can come from uncertainty, but it also means that we've got endless possibilities of positive things too. So rather than dwelling on the negative now, I always look to, well, what can uncertainty offer me in the future? What good things can leaning into uncertainty bring? And I think that's been a massive mindset shift.
Yeah, amazing. I can see that. I really can. Look, we've got about 16 minutes left. So I'm going to rattle through some of these final ones so that we can have a bit of a debrief, okay? But this is one for you, actually. This is a business plug. Do you know what? Look, sometimes I look at tasks, right? And I'm like, why don't I take action on it? Do you know what? Because I just don't bloody enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right? I hate admin. I hate it. All right? So maybe... Right, do you know what? I once got into so much trouble with Mrs. Zina's come into this a lot. I was like peak listening to like Rob Moore and influenced by Rob Moore, and he's huge on this. Like, get out of your own way. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it, because you're not going to have passion about it and you're not going to take action. And I think it's so important. And once I was like, Claire, let's start calling her Claire, not Mrs. Zina, right? Claire goes, look, you've got to do this. And I was like, it's just not my passion. But what we really meant was, we'll get a cleaner, all right? Yeah. Went, no, we're not getting a cleaner, because I'd end up cleaning the whole house first anyway. And I was like, It's just not my passion. So don't ask me to do things. Like I'm prepared to like pay someone. That didn't go down well, Helen. All right.
I can imagine.
But I genuinely believe this. All
Mhm.
right. I genuinely believe this. You know, sometimes I just look at tasks and I'm like, I just don't bloody enjoy that.
No.
I don't want to sit and do, but there's some weirdos like you, Helen, right? That genuinely love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so, particularly for people who are in business, go and find that person who genuinely enjoys doing it and pay them, because your energy is best placed doing something that you enjoy, that you can do incredibly well, that in the end is going to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah. And
this is your fault now, Helen.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, I think you tend to find with people, if they don't enjoy doing something, they don't do a proper job either. It's half-arsed and it's the bare minimum and there's no pride in it. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, and that's the difference as well. It's the quality of what will be put out. So for example, if you hate marketing and you hate writing emails and you hate doing social media and all the rest of it, you're going to knock something up that's all right on Canva and fling it out at you and be like, nah, that'll do. Whereas if you get somebody that is passionate about that, they're going to produce their best work and they're going to give you that. Or in terms of admin or anything else, you know, I think that's a big bugbear for a lot of people. And not only that, but I also think it's just that they don't have the time either. I think if you're busy running a business, you're busy, you know, like you with your acting school, and that is your passion and that is where all your energy needs to be. But where do you then find the time to do all the other stuff that has to be done? How do you find the time? And I think that's where outsourcing, and now more than ever, there's so many VAs, PAs that will work remotely for you, that will do all of those things for you. So I think if you can outsource and you can afford to do it,
brilliant investment.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant investment. I can say that for me as well. I've got a PA. It's so useful. And in fact, every time I just keep passing more and more and more and more over. Once you work out just how useful it is, it's like, oh, brilliant. It's just, it's absolutely amazing. Now, the second thing, I don't know, what about the seventh? Is, I would say, and I'm going to try and put this as briefly as possible, but I'm easily distracted. I don't know about you, Helen. Okay, it's I don't know. You might have got this second part to this right. I think I can be easily distracted. Now I'm going to tell a little story, okay, about discipline and about how all of this works. Okay, so in Vietnam, after the Vietnam War, what happened is all the squaddies over in Vietnam, they're all hooked on heroin, right? And so there was going to be a national health crisis when they all came back from Vietnam to the US. They were terrified. They were terrified. But when they all got back, guess what? None of them had a habit. Okay, it was like literally wasn't even an issue, probably minimal. And when they then did research on it, they researched the fact that it was all about environment. Everything was environment. The environment you create for yourself. Basically, it was easy for them to do it when they're in Vietnam. Yeah. Well, it's just everywhere. But when they came home, it wasn't easy for them to do it there. So the one thing I will tell everybody is, when it comes to discipline and taking action and doing these things, environment is such a huge part of taking action. I have an office, but I'm at home and I've got a great office here. Look, lovely, right? But why do I spend all of this money having an office and not working from home? Is that does that make financial sense? At times I've thought no, but then at other times I'm like, it makes huge financial sense. Why? Because it's an environment whereby I stay on task. There's not, I'm not thinking about downstairs. Okay. I'm not thinking about the fridge. Remember, I'm still on diet. Okay. I'm not thinking about what I've got to do in the garden. I'm not thinking I can just bob out here, bob out there. And then at my office, I've got everything set up. I've literally got my desk. I've got reminders on the wall. I've got boards. I've got this. I've made that environment work conducive. So sometimes a really important thought is to think, is your environment conducive to you taking action? Yeah. And I think it's such an important point. I really, really do.
Yeah. And I think
sorry, go on.
Like your own standards for yourself plays into this massively too, in terms of like, especially if you're going to like start a business and work from home, having that self-discipline, I think routine can play massively into that. So for example, like still setting an alarm and getting up at a certain time, even though there's nobody to go, you're late to work today. Like, no, but you've got your own standard and you are late to work today. So get out of bed and get to work. Have a routine. I think that's really important. I also like, for me, I make myself get dressed. I won't sit here in pajamas or a dressing gown or anything like that. Make myself get dressed and look presentable, you know, put some makeup on, do my hair, all that sort of stuff, because then I feel like I'm in work mode instead of slumping, sitting on my phone, pajamas on. Like, I think there's a whole psychology behind it, isn't there? And I think there's ways that you can set yourself up for success, definitely.
Absolutely. So what you've just said there is you literally make it a work environment. Yeah. You know, and I think that's so important. You make something. If there's ever something you need to do and you're really struggling with discipline, or what's the other word that everyone says? A lack of will. What do you call it?
Motivation, is it?
Motivation. That's it. Everyone always says, I need more motivation. Motivation for me is environment. It really, really is. You make something easier to do than not to do.
Yeah.
What do? You put your gym stuff out on a morning, right? Because that makes it easier to put on than to have to go rummaging around. You make everything easier to do than not to do. And that really is my trick to willpower. It always has been. How can I make this easier to do? Diet, just chuck everything out. You're not going to wonder if there's nothing in.
Yeah.
You know, my kids hide the snacks from, you know, if they want a chocolate, they know where it is. There's a stockpile in here somewhere. So yeah, all right. All right, but you make it harder for you to do something you don't want to, you know, that's bad for you. You make it easier to do things that are good for you.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a really important one. And it's all about environment and action. I think it's just so important. It really, really is. All right. So we're coming up to, we've gone 53 minutes. Wow. I don't know how long you usually go with, Matt. All right. But
I think you only got an hour on Instagram we seen, didn't we? So
yeah. So I think we'll box this off quite nicely, because what we've got now is really the bonus. All right. So we've gone through kind of 10 different points on why we don't take action. And this is kind of the bonus. This is something that really hit me when I really started looking into this a little while ago. And that is, statistically, you are literally 50% more likely to do something, achieve something, if you not only set the what, but the how and the when. So if you make a target, you say, right, I'm going to do this. But if you also put, by doing this, or this is how I'm going to do it, and by when, statistically, reports have showed that you are 50% more likely to achieve that target, that goal, that action. All right. So that's the bonus one. Make sure that you always put the how and the when, the what, the how, and the when. If you literally have got a list of tasks, what, how, and by when. I missed one out, and this is really a good time to stick it back in. Okay. But really, what we do is sometimes our first action is overwhelming because we make that first action far too big. So I wrote a book, and it's literally in the final stages of being considered by a really good publisher. Actually, I'm really, really excited. I'm finding out very, very soon. But basically, that started off by me targeting myself to write for 5 minutes a day during lockdown. 5 minutes. I then invariably did it for an hour at a time, 2 hours at a time. But by the time lockdown was done, it was completed, done. All my life's work, acting technique, done. Okay. As well as that, when we think of an idea, we sometimes make that first task too big. Sometimes it's actually just to calendarize, to do something. It's actually just to drop an email. My favorite one is I've had a business idea, something like that. Just WhatsApp the person that takes that first step. I sometimes get my people when I'm on an environment like this just to come up with a target and then take it right back to what they need to do right this instant, who they need to send a WhatsApp to, who they need to send an email to, and get them to do it right then and there. Because once you've sent that first email or first WhatsApp, you're on the first step. So sometimes you make that first task too big and you get overwhelmed from it. And then finally, time boxing. And this is my thing. I'm too reliant on to-do lists rather than time boxing. Now, what does time boxing do? It gives you that how and the when, or certainly the when. Okay, and time boxing. So rather have your day split up into all of those different 10 minutes, whatever, 15-minute slots, and literally get your tasks in there. You've got more chance of completing it. You've got more chance. You've got a feedback loop of, look, I've got this done, brilliant. You get a feedback loop of positivity, and it's just the best way for you to be as productive as possible. All right.
Yeah.
Oof, we're rattling through them. We'll have a debrief really, really quickly. But the final thing is, this is something that I do, and this is something that Matt Hall does. And accountability and having a kind of mentor, for me, is the best way to take action. And it's kind of the secret. I think I'm a mentor for actors. Matt Hall with Success School is a fantastic mentor, and he mentored me for a long while. Having somebody to be accountable to is actually the key to all of this. And I would say, if you haven't had a mentor at any period in either your acting career or your personal life and your personal development, at least try it for a period of time. You will not regret it. Now, if you want to get in touch with me, DM me if you're an actor and you want to explore being mentored. If you are not an actor and you want to try out having a mentor in terms of personal development, look up Matt Hall Coaching. All right, he mentored me in terms of business and personal development, and he was absolutely fantastic. He really, really was. Okay, and Helen, if you and if you are looking for that virtual PA, okay, Helen has a wonderful service. Yeah, Helen also. Okay, but yeah, let's have a quick debrief. How have you found it? Have you enjoyed yourself?
I think this has been so powerful, so much good advice. And what you were saying about time blocking as well, Len, that is exactly how I operate too. I think a lot of us from Success School do that, and that's how we manage our day. And it just takes away the overwhelm, because instead of looking at a to-do list thinking, how am I going to do all that? You're looking at a list of things assigned to times, and you're like, I know how I'm going to do all that because everything's got its own slot, and it just makes life so much easier and less overwhelming. So huge point to really consider if you're somebody that gets overwhelmed. But I've had the best time. I feel like you've given so much value here, Matt, and we have got some final few comments. So
Let's do
it. So we have got, well, there's loads. Lynn said, hi, Dan Collard, and hi, Povo. I guess you're Dan Collard.
Yes, I am Dan Collard. I might even explain that quickly. So basically, we had 2 speakers who were fitness speakers, and I was like, right, getting motivated. You know, the kind of these types, okay? And I was like, and I just mixed up the names, and I called, because one was called Dan and one was called Adam Collard. I was like, Dan Collard, mix them both up, and I was like, they can be those 2 people. I'm going to be Dan Collard. And mix them. Wait till I come to the next event. Ripped. So, yeah, just a little private joke there.
And then Julie writes saying she's having a break from the grandkids, so she's joined us. Mark Acting has said, without action, there is nothing. Absolutely. Fitness by Lindsay has said, do you think sometimes you can take the wrong action? Like, I'm very impulsive, not sure if that's a good or bad thing. What do you think to that?
Oh, the wrong action. Yeah, of course we can take the wrong action. Absolutely. And I think it's really, really, I think it's really important there is always a feedback loop of, look, this isn't getting me anywhere. And I think Stephen Bartlett said it really, really well. He said, look, sometimes success is learning to say no as well.
Yeah.
And this is because I've done this because I'm so motivated, and sometimes I pride myself on just being over motivated and like, and sometimes I've just taken that down the wrong path too far, and I wish I'd said no, this isn't serving me. And I think sometimes with every action, you've just got to take that little bit of time just to go, is this serving me? And I need to say no more. I do.
And I think there's value in taking the wrong action sometimes too, because I think sometimes you only find the right action by taking the wrong action and learning from that, essentially. So yeah, I think
absolutely learning.
Julie has said, the more we think about things, the more we think about things. We go round and round without taking the actual step into the task. That's it. It becomes rumination, doesn't it? And it becomes useless because obviously we all know the mind's got a negativity bias as well. And the more we chew over something, the more we're going to talk ourselves out of it, essentially. That's definitely my experience anyway.
100%. Thought to action. 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, right. Okay. Helen, is that all of the comments? Are you okay?
Oh, no, we've got a few more. Sorry, it just broke up a little bit then. Terry said, is there any way a replay of this? I tend to need to re-listen to things a couple of times to get the most out of it. I think it'll be on your socials.
It should be. As well as that, I think that I get kind of like a cloud recording through Restream. So when I get that, I'll upload it and I'll probably share it with you as well, Helen, and we can put it on wherever it can go to help people. Absolutely.
Mark Acting has said, like Rocky said, life will hit you hard. ST's taking the punches and getting back up and keeping on moving forward.
Love a good Rocky quote.
Yeah. And he said, great advice. Have a great rest of the day, both of you. Penelope said her concentration isn't great either. She said, me too. Oh, look, something shiny.
Yeah, that's me. I've definitely got ADHD, honestly. I'm exactly the same.
I think we're an undiagnosed generation, aren't we?
Exactly.
Julie said she agrees with the environmental aspect. She works better in her therapy room than she does if she's at her home office.
Yeah.
Penelope's saying that she goes for a walk as a commute. That's a really good one as well, actually, if you're working from home, to make sure that you're still getting outside and stuff. That's really important.
Very true.
Ryan has said motivation for him is confidence. Carol said, brilliant advice, you guys. Thank you. Penelope has said, great session, Matt. I was feeling bored and overwhelmed and now feeling the pizzazz. We've put the pizzazz in.
We're pizzazzing people, Helen.
Yes. Love it. This is why we do it. And Carol said she's got to go. The plumber has arrived. And Lindsay said, yes, I get that. Great live, guys. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. How much engagement did we get?
The plumber has arrived.
Sorry?
The plumber has arrived.
The plumber has arrived.
We'll saw a video like that.
Behave.
But yeah, we have done good, Helen. We really, really have.
It's been really good.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And like I said, I hope people got so much from this. It's really I don't know, it's good for me. Do you know what? When Matt says, like, look, will you guess this? Or when you've suggested it, it feels great to give back, not just to Matt, not just to yourself, but to the community who, you know, we all help each other. And so that if I'm able to give back, I'm totally happy to do it. I've really, really enjoyed myself. Few shout outs. One is Matzina Acting. So if you're an actor and you need help with your career, make sure you check out at Matzina Acting. Website is mzacting.com. Make sure, even if you're an actor or you're kind of new to Success School, make sure that you check out Success School, Matt Hall Coaching. Make sure you check out the Success School website, which I'm going to get Helen to plug. It's fantastic with having a group of people that genuinely support each other, help each other. And it's, for me, it's the best value personal development kind of subscription around. So make sure you check Success School out as well. Helen, if you could very quickly tell everyone how they can do that, and then we'll end it.
So Success School is obviously Matt Hall's coaching brand, as Matt's just said. I'm the community manager over there, and essentially what it is it's a monthly membership where it's £19 a month, so it's only £4.75 a week. It's really cheap, and you get so much value for that. You get a WhatsApp group for check-ins. There's a Facebook group for talking to the community, which is over 70 strong now. Then you get live coaching calls once a week. We have expert guest speakers come in every other week to speak to us on those coaching calls. And then you've also got a membership area on the website, which is all personal development training videos that you can work through at your own pace. There's hundreds of hours of content on that website. All the past stuff's there, and there's a fitness section too. It is amazing. I 100% believe in it. Matt's a member, I'm a member, we love it. And obviously all the wisdom that we've shared today, we've learned a lot of it through being a part of that. So yeah, we'd love to see you over there if you'd like to join us.
There we go. Helen, that was fantastic. It really, really was. All that's said, and again, if ever you need be, we'll do something like this again. I've really, really enjoyed myself. Thank you, everybody that's come along for the ride. It's been fantastic. And I want to say thank you so much to Helen. You've been amazing. And everybody that's watched, I've really, really enjoyed myself. And I'll see you very, very soon. Bye.
Thank you.